if you've got above 4 ppm of phosphates in the water, you need to do something to reduce them. That you'll get into levels there where algae will be having a party.
If you just go and bomb algae with chlorine and hope it will go away, then you've probably just released a lot of phosphate into your pool.
Well, you've got to be proactive, not reactive. You know, you've just got to keep dosing and doing what you need to do in order to prevent that algae coming again.
And we're back again with Colin Day from Lovibond Tintometer, who's kindly given his time on the subject and to provide some advice on how to help control phosphates and also how to test for it as well. Thanks for coming along again, Colin. I suppose we should kick off with the first question, which is, what are phosphates and why should pool operators be concerned about them?
Phosphates are naturally occurring chemicals that you find in the environment. They make parts of plants, so leaves can contain phosphates, any living material contain phosphates. They are a main concern to pool people because, one, if you have phosphates in the pool, it will encourage algae to grow. And the golden rule is no phosphates, no algae. And obviously once algae start to grow, the water becomes unsightly. They can be dangerous to bathers, etc., etc. That's the issue with phosphates. Phosphates could mean algae. So
it's food, basically.
And the issue really how phosphates get into pool water is that phosphates are a very, very clever material in the fact that it will stick to surfaces. So water companies like putting phosphate into water, so it coats the piping. We still in this country have a fair amount of lead piping underground, so the phosphate coats the lead piping and stops lead coming out into the drinking water. Phosphates are great for companies supplying potable drinking water, but they're not great as a source of water for swimming pools. That's the main source of phosphates in water. Plus, obviously, there's the natural phosphates from rainwater, organic material in outdoor pools, phosphate runoff from fields, etc., fertilizer. Water chemicals have phosphates, and then the swimmers themselves can bring phosphates in the way of some sort of waste material. So the biggest source of phosphates is from the source water normally, because I believe 99% of drinking water in the UK will contain some level of phosphate.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just going to say as well, I mean, obviously the algae is a big issue, but the other thing is with that is bacteria as well. We're providing a bit of a basis for bacteria to breed as well, because obviously bacteria is going to thrive on food as well.
I imagine biofilms will probably quite enjoy high phosphate levels as well, would they?
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
And there's a couple of different types of phosphate, isn't there? There's sort of organic phosphate and inorganic phosphate, isn't there? Which one are we primarily concerned about, do you think, Colin, in pools?
You can get both, basically, but it's mainly the organic phosphates are the phosphate molecules that we think of as phosphates. Inorganic phosphates are chemical structures that you find in rocks and things. So probably more. You can get both in there depending on exactly where your pool is, to be perfectly honest. It's the phosphates we add up, the ones that as a form of a chemical, are the ones that you think of mainly in the pool. So,
I suppose if you've got an outdoor pool and there's lots of leaves and debris in there, then that's going to decompose, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Create organic phosphates, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So you will get phosphates coming from, as you said, leaves, grass seeds, anything that could be pushed into the pool, and from a life form will have phosphates. So you're quite right.
Yeah, vegetation, anything like that.
Yep.
So we've also got a case, haven't we, that some pool chemicals might contain phosphate as well. It's because phosphate's used as a sequestering agent or an anti-scale agent as well in some pool chemicals, such as some types of calcium hypochlorite and some types of sodium hypochlorite, I believe, as well.
Yeah, phosphate is contained in pool chemicals. As you said, some of the chlorine donors contain phosphates. Again, as I said in the previous talk, it's always best to have a look at the safety data sheet. Should have a list of the ingredients. They should actually be on the container as well. If you've got the phosphates issues, see if there are phosphates in the chemical, because obviously you don't want to be making a mistake of adding to the issue. So you're quite right. Phosphates can be added to the pool accidentally through chemicals.
Yeah.
I mean,
There seem to be like different opinions on what levels of phosphates cause problems, and some people do have elevated phosphate levels and they don't get problems with algae and things like that. But again, I guess some of that comes down to the quality of the rest of the pool water treatment, perhaps how good the filtration is, how much sunlight the pool might be getting, or I guess there's a few different factors, is there?
Yeah, having phosphates in the water doesn't mean you'll get algae. Not having phosphates means you won't, but having phosphates doesn't mean you will. As you said, that there's lots of other factors. Good chlorine and pH control will inhibit or stop the algae growing. I should say most water has algae spores in it. That's where the source comes from. Even drinking tap water will contain some algae spores, so that's where they come from. But if the chlorine disinfection level is good, if the general water quality is good, then you should be able to have phosphates and not have algae. But as you said, if you allow your pH to creep up, so the chlorine becomes not so effective, and you have phosphates, and as you said, and you are maybe an outdoor pool or an indoor pool with a great big window next to you with plenty of sunlight, then you're, shall we say, encouraging them to show themselves. And it doesn't always mean, it could just be, there's different sorts of algae. It could be algae growth on the pool wall, or it could be an algae bloom in the water. If there's phosphates present and your water conditions are how can I put this, poor, but you will encourage the algae to thrive. Yeah.
I did experience one pool that had they were turning their circulation down at night, and they were turning it down quite considerably. They had algae in the corners it was virtually in the corners of the pools, basically.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, we've never had it before." I said, "Well, what's changed over the last few years?" I said, "Oh, well, nothing much really, but we've had these inverters put in." And so we did some experimenting, and we just didn't use the inverters for a few days, got rid of the algae, and it didn't come back. So maybe some people just push the water treatment a bit too hard.
I think they do, because the other thing is algae like stagnant water, basically water where there's no flow, that encourages them a bit more. So if you've got a nice circulation around the pool, again, you're discouraging the algae. But if you have areas where there's, should we say, still water for a long period of time, you then again, it's another, oh yes, this is another plus for us. You're quite right. So that might have been the case, that they suddenly had some still water areas which encouraged the algae to start growing.
To take hold.
Yeah, as we reference it, and the dead spots.
Yeah, that's it. We've got to get rid of the dead spots, and I think a lot of energy managers will go around to these pools and start winding down the circulation in the hope of saving some energy, and it does. But they don't understand the wider implications quite often. That there's only so far you can go, and that pool is meant to have a certain circulation pattern. And if it can't be achieved, then
you're going to have problems.
We're going to get problems.
Yeah.
Well,
is it right with these phosphates as well, Colin, that if they're present in the water, it will inhibit the action of like coagulants, aluminium-based products?
It can do. If I'm trying to put this, sort of a normal level of that you might find in the pool, so we say that's in a mains water, shouldn't have too much of effect. But if you allow it to increase, it can start affecting, as you said, other chemicals. It can affect the pH, it can affect the alkalinity, it can affect the water balance.
Yeah.
So they all sort of start interacting with each other. That's the thing. And as you said, you can find other chemicals stop working correctly, or less efficiently, as I would put it.
Less
rather
efficiently.
Than, yeah.
I mean, the other thing that touches on that, Andy, and that's part of what we were going to discuss anyway, is obviously the use of cleaning chemicals as well. It's not just the products that you clean in your pool with. And it's the reason that we're always telling these people on the courses and through our consultancy service that, you've got to be so careful in relation to the cleaning chemicals that you use on the pool site, because by hook or by crook, eventually those products might well get into your water.
Yeah. Phosphoric acid is a popular cleaner, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
as you said,
that cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, a lot of them contain phosphates, which, as you said, will unfortunately seep back into the pool water.
It'll find its way back in.
It doesn't degrade very well, does it? The environment.
No.
And it's a big problem for drinking water as well, isn't it? Like you say, especially in agricultural areas, high levels of phosphates in the water seeping back into into lakes, rivers, and water sources. It's a big problem. And one of the reasons we get a lot of algae in lakes now, isn't it? It's the same. It's exactly the same problem.
Yeah, and the problem the water companies have is that at the other end of the cycle, when the water gets to the treatment works, they actually have to try and remove the phosphate before they discharge back into the environment, because you said we don't want phosphate in river waters, lakes, etc., because there's enough natural phosphate there without it being added to. So they have the problem where they have to actually remove phosphate from the waste product, as it were.
Yeah, I guess it's an expensive process to do that, isn't it? It's not easy.
No, it's not.
So what's the best way, what's the most reliable kind of test for phosphates? I know we talked about having simple kits for sulfates last time in our other podcast, but what's available for phosphate testing?
So phosphate testing is done with a comparator or a photometer. So similar to a standard comparator stroke photometer test, you add, in these occasions, 2 tablets. So there's a phosphate number 1 and a phosphate number 2. You add them to the sample. I believe there is a time period you have to wait for the colours to fully develop, and then you would just read the colour off as per a normal way you would use a comparator or photometer. I believe the ones I would recommend is the phosphate low range method, because it measures between 0 and 4 ppm. Basically, if you've got above 4 ppm of phosphates in the water, you need to do something to reduce them. That you'll get into levels there where algae will be having a party. So it's the ideal range, and the most cost-effective way is via a test, and we do rather than the traditional Lovibond 2000 glass comparator, which if you've got the comparator already, you can buy the disc. But if you haven't got one of those, we do a small plastic comparator called a Check-It, which you can use at a relatively low cost, and will give good results. As I said before, our larger pool photometers, the PM600 range, will also test for phosphates, but the standard smaller photometers, the MD100 type, just concentrate on the common tests. The important thing to remember when testing phosphates on any system is that you should actually have dedicated comparator tubes or dedicated vials for measuring the phosphate, which should be used just for that. The reason being is a lot of the other tablets, for instance, DPD number 1 tablets, contain levels of phosphate.
Phosphates.
So when you use a DPD1 in a tube, some of that phosphate becomes stuck to the tube. It's just what phosphates do.
I see.
If you then come and do a phosphate test using that tube, the phosphate tablets themselves are quite sensitive, and they will actually detect the phosphate stuck to the tube, and you start getting false readings because it's picking up what's there rather than what's in the water. So the advice is, if you have a phosphate kit, keep the tubes for phosphate and don't rinse them in tap water over and over again. If you do, every so often give them a rinse in a weak acid such as vinegar, and that will remove the phosphates from the tube.
Okay.
It's a mistake lots of people make.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, or a deionized water or something like that, Colin, isn't it? Yeah.
Deionized water to rinse them with, not tap water. But if you feel that you've got some phosphates on the tube, a quick rinse in a weak acid like vinegar will remove the phosphate, and then give it a rinse in deionized water. So
yeah, great tip. So we'll put some of those links to these types of tests down in the description in the video as well, so that hopefully you can get access to that if you need some more information. Basically what we're saying is, if you've got a phosphate reading but you haven't got any of the symptoms, so you haven't got algae or you haven't got film, or some strange bacteriological problems, there's probably not a lot to worry about, I guess.
I would agree. Yeah, as I said, having phosphates in the water doesn't mean you'll get algae. As I said before, not having phosphates means you won't get algae. But if you're not having it, you can have a certain amount of phosphate in the water and not be too concerned about it. The unfortunate thing is you really couldn't give a level on what that phosphate would be, because it depends on other circumstances, as we said before, like how good your water quality is. But if you're not having issues, then don't get rid of it.
Stress about
Basically,
it
just
too
carry on.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get rid of, is it? You know, there are chemicals out there to treat it, aren't there? I think there are lanthanum-based products that will help to reduce phosphate levels, but they're probably best used in conjunction with a flocculant as well, so that so that the phosphate can be precipitated, can't it? And then your flocculant will help to remove that precipitate.
That's
as well.
right. Yeah. And then it can be sort of backwashed away, as it were. But you're quite right. There are phosphate removers which will remove the phosphate. But I always say it's another chemical being added to the water, which you try and avoid if you can. And I guess it's another cost as well. So, but
and again, it's something that's being added that's going to have an effect on your TDS as well at the end of the day. Isn't it?
Yeah, it all adds up, doesn't it? And I think the other thing I wanted to sort of bring up as well is that if you are treating algae, you know, one of the steps in algae treatment is to shock the pool with chlorine, and it is known that algae will release phosphate, won't it, when it's being oxidized like that. Phosphate levels can go up significantly.
Yeah.
So I guess it's important. The steps for treating algae are quite important to follow. I know some of the manufacturers give good advice out there on how to do it, because you know, if you just go and bomb algae with chlorine and hope it'll go away, then you've probably just released a lot of phosphate into your pool. So I know one company sort of recommends trying to physically get rid of as much algae as you can out of the water first, then scrub the sides, stir up the algae and oxidize what's left with chlorine, and then I think the next step was to treat it with something like a lanthanum product.
Yeah.
So it's physically trying to extract as much algae as you can before you try to chemically attack it, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the key thing, doesn't it? You know, it's just the use of the flocculant, binding it together, you know, trapping it, removing as much of it as you can. And then when you've got a minimum amount of algae left, then go for the shock.
Yeah,
because if you've got a lot of algae in there, as you've just quite rightly said, you put the shock in there, well, you're just multiplying stuff, aren't you?
As you break the algae down, it's releasing phosphates, and you solve the problem for it to come back again a bit later on, basically. So
not an easy one.
No.
Not an easy one.
But that was it. Yeah, that's the key thing with that as well, though, isn't it? It's all right getting rid of it, but it's maintaining that control once you've got rid of it as well. So don't assume that you've got rid of it the first time and it won't come back. It will. You've got to be proactive, not reactive. You know, you've just got to keep dosing and doing what you need to do in order to prevent that algae coming again.
Yeah. And,
if
it's coming in on the mains water as well.
Yeah, if you've had it once, you said you can get rid of it. But if you then, as you said, Martin, you don't look at what you're doing, you don't keep your water quality good, you don't maintain it. If you've had the conditions right for it once, you can easily get the conditions right again and it will come back. So you've got to keep on top of it once you've got rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, we go back, Andy, don't we, to a basic principle of what we say on the courses as well, is that, you know, in most of these cases, you keep your pH levels right, you keep your chlorine levels right, they're working together, they're not separate, they're working together, then a lot of the time they'll prevent algae forming and a lot of these things forming. As soon as you lose that pH and chlorine level, then that's when we're looking at trouble.
That's right. With anything, it's just like biofilms, isn't it? They're looking for an opportunity, aren't they?
Yeah.
So if you're not tightly keeping an eye on your pH and your disinfection, the circulation, pattern in the pool as well, backwashing, everything. It's like a holistic approach, I think. Really, it's to ensuring that you don't get this algae problem.
Yeah, and the testing of the mains water, which we mentioned in the sulfates as well. It's just all that. It's stuff that I know everybody, they're all rushed off their feet, don't get me wrong, but to do a monthly test of your mains water in a lot of these cases is critical. You're topping up your pool every week when you're backwashing with huge quantities of water. It makes sense that you should be testing the water that's coming in to top your pool up.
Yeah.
Yes, and 9 out of 10 times that water will have phosphate in it, if not more often.
Will,
We had a Pool Operators Club member, didn't we, Martin, a good few weeks back, mentioning that they tested for phosphate in their water, and they were in the London area, and she had over 3 ppm coming in on the mains water.
Yeah,
one week they measured 7 parts per million.
That's the norm is 2 to 4.
Yeah. So they contacted the water company, and the water company sort of denied that it shouldn't be at those levels, and I think they came out and did some tests, but obviously by the time they went there, it was back down to the normal range.
Yeah.
But it just shows you maybe the dosing isn't always accurate. And she had persistent algae problems in the pool, and had to do quite a lot of work to upgrade filters and things like that.
Well, how can we put it? The lack of
it.
maintenance in the London area water systems probably reflects in the fact that they've probably got a lot of lead pipe work about, and they're chucking loads of phosphate in there to protect the lead pipe work.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and you combine that with, obviously there's combined chlorine in the mains water as well, isn't it? So it's two things that we've got in our mains water that they're not particularly good for pools. Combined chlorine coming in, and phosphate as well.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it's just a UK thing as well. I believe this problem does exist in the States to some degree as well.
They would be using.
They've also got some
phosphate in the mains water.
Yeah.
But in the States it's a bit different, because obviously different states can have different legislation, but a lot of them do have phosphate in the water as well.
So we're not on our own.
No. I have been to places, and I guess you have, where people are mistaken, had green water thinking it's algae, and gone through all the process we just said, when it's actually high cyanuric acid levels.
That is a good point, actually. Yeah, it's a very good point, because again, cyanuric is often ignored, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not well understood.
Is that in outdoor pools, Colin, or was that in an indoor pool?
It was actually a friend of mine, outdoor pool. She'd had a pool engineer come out, and he'd shocked the pool over and over again. It was still green. So she asked if I'd go and have a look. And I walked in and I went, "You haven't got algae, you've got cyanuric acid. High cyanuric acid."
Yeah.
So I measured cyanuric acid. I couldn't get a reading on the photometer, it was over range. And then I took a cup of water and I showed her in a glass of water, and I said, "Look, there's nothing in there. It looks clear in this glass. You've got cyanuric acid. The only way you're going to get rid of that is by chucking water out and filling it up again." I'm sorry to say, bad news, but
Solution to pollution is dilution.
you can shock the pool as many times as you like. It's still going to be green if you don't get rid of that cyanuric acid. So, and the pool engineer
the only reason that I asked that, Colin, was that Andy and I are aware, and I certainly am, because I've come across it loads of times. Believe it or not, there are indoor pools using stabilised chlorine.
I know. Tell me, yeah.
And that's the reason why I asked if it's an indoor or an outdoor pool.
No, but I've come across indoor pools, and the trouble with indoor pools is that a lot of them don't realise they're using stabilised chlorines, and so when you ask them, are they using stabilised chlorine, and then when you ask them, are they testing for cyanuric acid, they'll go, "Well, what's that?"
What's that?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's not the cheapest option, is it? As a product, it's not an inexpensive.
But they sell it on the convenience, Andy. They sell it on the basis that you can leave that tablet in that strainer basket. You don't have to worry about testing. Don't worry about things like that. It'll make its way into the system, and it'll cut down on your workload. So the sales pitch isn't even about the benefits or the dangers of it or the testing of it and cyanuric acid. It's the fact that it'll be saving the operator time, and that's a topic for another day, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, maybe we could do that. Well,
yeah,
there's lots of other chemistry we can talk about. Yeah. I hope everybody's found that useful, and a bit of an insight into the phosphates and the problems they can cause, and sometimes they get blamed for problems they don't cause too.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for your time, Colin. Appreciate it. If people want to get hold of you or contact your company or yourself, what's the best way to do it? Email?
Drop me an email. It's colin.day@lovibond.uk. As straightforward as that. Yeah, drop me an email and I'll be happy to help out with any queries.
That's great. And we'll put those details down in the description as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks again, Colin.
All right.
Thanks, Martin.
Okay. You're welcome.
And
lovely to catch up with you.
Until the next one.
Yep. See you soon.
Cheers,
then. All right, bye.
Bye.
For more information on membership benefits available through the Pool Operators Club, visit our website at pooloperatorsclub.com.